concepts of ratio and proportion and different types of proportion. It has been discussed in the module that for a ratio to become a proportion, the product of the means and the extremes must be the same. So we have here the first term A, second term, third term, and the fourth term. Now, for us to determine if the two ratios are proportion, we can use the cross products. Example in the module, let's determine if 3/4 and 6/8 are proportion. So, using the cross product method, we have here 3 times 8 and then 4 times 6. So, we have both 24, meaning the two ratios or the two fractions are equal. If they are equal, it means they are proportion. How are you going to find out if one term or one variable in a proportion is missing? In our example number 2, find the value of x. So the variable here represents the letter x. Actually, you can represent any letter. You can use letter N or any alphabet letters. This time, we use the letter x, meaning the fourth term is missing. You're going to multiply the means, the 4 and 3, and the extreme. The point here means a multiplication. So 2 times x is equal to 2x. And then 4 times 3 is equal to 12. To determine our missing term or our missing variable, we will divide both by number 2. The number 2 here will be cancelled. The remaining will be x. And then 12 divided by 2 is 6. Our missing term is 6. So for us to determine if our answer is correct, let us use the cross product or the cross multiplication method. So our x is 6. That's why our x here becomes 6. So 2 times 6 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. Technique for us to determine a number wherein we are going to divide our number here is the number beside our missing term. So one is direct proportion. The second is inverse proportion or indirect proportion. And the third kind is partitive proportion. So let us apply those kind of proportion in solving a word problem. So let us have this problem. Marco and his friends in the neighborhood play basketball 3 times a week. They consume 13 liters of water every 45 minutes. How many liters of water can they consume in 315 minutes? So for us to determine what kind of proportion is this problem, we must first determine the meaning of each proportion. And then of course, it is very important to analyze the problem. If we are going to analyze the problem, we have here comparisons. So the comparison is 13 liters of water every 45 minutes. There is 13 liters of water every 45 minutes. And then another one here, how many liters of water can they consume in 315 minutes? So as you can see, we have here 13 liters, then it is good for 45 minutes. Meaning to say, 13 liters, good for 45 minutes, there is an increasing variable. So as you can see, 13 is to 45. The two variable, the first variable is 13, then we have here 45. The two variables increase. So if we have here in our problem, how many liters of water can they consume in 315 minutes? So there is a missing term. So our terms are liters is to minutes, liters is to minutes. So we have a missing liter for it to be good for 315 minutes. So it's very clear that the two comparisons are increasing. So if these are increasing, we have here the definition of direct proportion. The proportion is direct if an increase in variable is accompanied by a corresponding increase in the other. 45 minutes. So 13 liters is good for 45 minutes. If we are going to analyze, the second ratio pertains also to an increasing number. So direct proportion can be also decreasing. If the first variable decreased, the other variable must also decrease. But in our example, the first variable is 13. We have here increasing as solved for our missing term. We have here 45 times n equals 13 times 315. Here 45, the means multiplied by the n. And then of course, 13 multiplied by 315. So we have here n equals, let us solve this one. Our number sentence will be 13 is to 45 equals n is to 315. In liters is to 45 minutes equals n. We have here missing liters is to 315 minutes. So as you can notice in our problem, I have said increase. If the first term is increasing or the first ratio is increasing and the other one will be also possible to increase, that is a direct proportion. So the proportion is direct if an increase in one variable is accompanied by a corresponding increase in the other. Again, if an increase in one variable, here is the variable 13, is accompanied by a corresponding increase in the other. So based from the problem, 13 liters of water is good for 45 minutes. So literally, the both variable are increasing. And then we have here n is to 315 minutes. So it is a direct proportion. So to solve a direct proportion, always remember on how you are going to form the ratio. So in our problem, the variables are liters is to minutes equals liters is to minutes. So we use liters is to minutes equals liters is to minutes because it is a direct proportion. How will you know that it is a direct proportion? It's because based from the problem, there is an increasing effect. Actually, direct proportion also happens if there is a decreasing or pababa naman yung effect ng variable compared dun sa isang variable. But in our example, it is increasing. Now, let us solve for our missing variable. So, to solve for our missing variable, you can use the ratio form or you can also use the fraction form. So, let us first have here the ratio form. So, as you had already studied, you're going to multiply means. So, 45 times n will be 45 n equals 13 times 315 is equal to 4,095. Now, we are going to find out our missing variable, which is letter n. So if you are going to use this ratio form, we are going to use the working backward. So if we're going to use the working backward, our missing variable is n is equal to. So if this is multiplication, we're going to make it as division. So we have here n is equal to 4,095 divided by 45. So if we are going to divide, our n will be 91, and then of course the label is liters. 91 liters. Now, how about if you are going to use the fraction form? So if we're going to use the fraction form, we have 13/45 equals n 315. So we have here 45 times n is equals to 45n. And then of course we have here equals 315 multiplied by 13 is of course 4095. So because we are using the fraction form, we are going to divide both givens by 45. So as a technique, the number beside our missing variable are going to cancel 45. The remaining is letter n. And then of course, 4095 divided by 45 is also equals to 91 liters. Now, to check if your answer is correct, we are going to substitute 91 to letter n. And here we are going to use 91. So 13 times 315 is 4095. The same as with 45 times 91 is 4095. The same as here, 45 times 91 is 4095, and then 13 times 315 is also 4095. So this type of problem, we have here liters is to minutes. Liters is to minutes is an example of a direct proportion. It's because our problem emphasizes an increase in one variable is accompanied by a corresponding increase in the other. Our second type of proportion is inverse or indirect proportion. So let's determine how are you going to mean if a problem is inverse proportion or indirect proportion. So in your module, there is a problem. It takes Robin 20 minutes to ride his bicycle at 20 km/h from home to grocery store. To shorten his travel time to 16 minutes for the same distance, how fast should he cycle? So let's analyze the problem. So we have here the variable of 20 minutes, and then we have here 20 km/h. And then to shorten his travel time to 16 minutes for the same distance, so there is a word clue here, the same distance, meaning to say there is the same rate or the same distance. So if there is the same rate or same distance, it pertains to inverse or indirect proportion. So for better understanding, always remember that indirect or inverse proportion means as the value of one variable increases, the value of the other variable decreases. Let's find out why. So we have here, let's call this one. So for you to be guided, you can use this format. We have here the original number. Let us use ON over new number. So equals, we have here the new number over original number. But then of course, this ratio must pertain to a certain variable, and then this ratio must also pertain to a certain variable. In our problem, we have here minutes. So this ratio pertains to minutes. And then here, we pertain it to kilometer per hour. So original minutes over new minutes. New kilometer per hour over original kilometer per hour. So if you will also use the ratio form, we have original number is to new number equals new number is to original number. Always make sure that the partner will be the new number and then the partner here will be the original number. So if this will be new minutes, this will be new kilometer per hour. This will be the format if your problem falls under inverse or indirect proportion. Again, how are you going to determine if a problem is an inverse or indirect proportion? As I had mentioned, inverse proportion happens as the value of one variable increases, the value of the other variable decreases. So let us solve our problem. Let us use the fraction form. So I will just erase this one. So our original minutes based from our problem is 20 minutes. So we have here 20 minutes over new minutes is 16 minutes equals the new kilometer per hour. So do we have a new kilometer per hour? So it is missing. Let us represent it by letter N. How about the original kilometer per hour? So the original kilometer per hour is 20 kilometer per hour. So let us apply our means of solving it. So we will multiply this one. We have 16n equals 20 times 20 is 400. So let us divide both by number 16. We have here the number 16. So let us cancel. So n will be equal to 400 divided by 16 is 25. What will be the label of our 25? That will be kilometer per hour. So we have here again the word clue for indirect proportion. We have the same distance. Sometimes it is used for the same rate. So that is inverse or indirect proportion. Okay, the last type of proportion is partitive proportion. So based from the root word of partitive, we have here the part, meaning to say if there will be a whole, we're going to divide it by parts. Let us have this problem. The sum of three numbers is 450. The ratio of the numbers is 2 is to 3 is to 4. What are the numbers? So in this problem, we can already identify that there is a whole, that we are going to divide it by parts, represented by this ratio. 2 is to 3 is to 4. So to solve this problem, we have this solution. So the given is 2 is to 3 is to 4. We have here 450. But how are we going to get it to be equal to 450? Let us represent a missing variable by letter n. So we have here 2n plus 3n plus 4n will be equal to 450. So based on your previous lessons, a number beside a variable pertains to operation of multiplication. So if they are beside with each other without having any operation, it's already a multiplication. Before that, let us have 2n plus 3n plus 4n. So the sum will be 9n. Why 9n? Because 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 4 is 9. 9n equals 450. So we already have here this number sentence. So based from our previous lesson or discussion, we're going to divide it by number 9. So let us cancel this one. We have here n is equal to 50. Where did you get 50? 450 divided by 9 is 50. Now this 50 will be substitute to this variable. Meaning to say we have here 2 times 50 plus 3 times 50 plus 4 times 50. It must be equal to 450. So let's check if that will be 450. We have here 100. 2 times 50 is 100. Plus 3 times 50 is 150. Plus 4 times 50 is 200. So 100 plus 150 is 250 plus 200, that will give you a sum of 450. Now, if we are going to substitute, say for example, 2 is for letter A, 3 is for letter B, and then 4 is for letter C. The number that letter A got is 100. Letter B got 150, and then letter C got 200. So this is a partitive proportion because the whole 450 is divided by parts by this ratio. So that is what you call partitive proportion. Again, it is partitive proportion if a whole is divided into parts represented by a given ratio.